Okay, so we made it to the last week, and for this week we are going to be covering chapters 12 and 13, which go hand in hand. The book has lots of pages and lots of formulas and lots of stuff, but we're going to basically, I just want you to get the basic concepts and know how to do this on the computer and know when to use it, and not so much about all the calculations. So, chapter 12 and 13 are about what's called regression analysis, and regression analysis is used for forecasting. Okay, so if you want to predict sales, or if you want to predict attendance, or if you want to predict number of errors that are going to occur, or whatever it may be, regression analysis is a great way to do that if you have quantitative variables to use. When you use regression analysis, you have two types of variables. You have the independent variables, which we're going to be called as X, and those variables are the ones that you're using to predict. So, like, if you're predicting sales, you might use last year's sales to predict this year's sales. You might use day of the week to predict sales. You might use temperature outside to predict sales. You might use condition of the economy to predict sales. So, anything that you're using to predict are going to be your X variables, and those are independent variables. Whatever you predict, so you can have multiple independent variables or just one. Now, chapter 12 deals with only having one independent variable. Chapter 13 is where you have multiple independent variables, and that's the difference between the two chapters. The Y variable is your dependent variable. It is what you're predicting. So you only have one Y variable in all the chapters. So you always just have one Y. You can either have one X or multiple X's. Okay, so that's pretty much what regression analysis is used. So let's look at an example here real quick, and then I'll when you have this, again, we're going to have X's and Y's, and so you can, as you can see, you can plot those. And in this example, we're going to say we're going to predict sales based on temperature outside, and we'll say these are ice cream sales. So your initial thought would be the higher the temperature, the greater the sales. And we want to determine if that's true, and if it is true, how strong is the relationship to temperature and sales? Because if it's very strong, we could be able to do a good prediction of what our sales would be that day based on the temperature that day. If it's not a very strong relationship, then we would know we don't need to use temperature to predict sales. We need to find other variables to use to predict sales. So let's just say, for example, we have some X's and Y's here. I'm just going to kind of make a little table here. And if it is, we'll say 50 degrees outside, let's say we sell 10 ice creams. If it is 90 degrees outside, let's say we sell 40 ice creams. If it is 60 degrees outside, let's say that we sell 25 ice creams. If it's 70 degrees outside, let's say that we sell 30 ice creams. Okay, so you can have multiple numbers. You'd like to have at least 30 so that it would give you a good representation of your population. So and what you can do is you can plot this, and when you plot this, this is called a scattered diagram. And you probably remember that from a previous chapter. So when you plot your X and your Y to determine the relationship. So when it's 50, we sold 10. When it was 90, we sold 40, and this is not drawn to scale very good at all, so you guys just forgive me. At 60, we sold 25, and at 70, we sold 30. Now you can see from our graph that it is definitely an upward trend, showing that there is a pretty strong relationship between a greater temperature shows greater sales. Now we could have a odd example here when it was 40 degrees outside. Let's say we sold 30. We could have something like this. And remember, those are called outliers or extreme values. Okay. If it is, quite a bit outside the realm of this. Now, what we're going to do is what's called the simple linear regression, which is when you have just one X variable and one Y variable. And so I'm going to stop right there and start on the next video.